I married the man I loved deeply, and our dream of becoming a married couple finally came true. We even celebrated with the wedding I had always envisioned. Surrounded by the blessings of so many people, I was certain that my parents, watching from heaven, were rejoicing too. But little did I know, a tragedy was looming, one that would shatter everything I held dear. I will never forgive those responsible. I'm determined to make them pay. My name is Mary. When I was 27, Thomas, my boyfriend who was 2 years older, proposed to me, and we got married. I lost my father when I was very young, and my mother passed away from illness 2 years ago. During my darkest moments, Thomas was my rock, supporting me both physically and emotionally. We chose to get married on the anniversary of our 2.5 years together and began our blissful life as newlyweds. Because of Thomas's demanding work schedule, we decided to delay our wedding ceremony until things settled down. On his days off, we would visit the wedding venue and start planning our big day. With the date set, it was time to decide on our guest list. I have an aunt and uncle who have always treated me like their own daughter after my parents passed away. After my father's death, they often brought me home-cooked meals since my mother was constantly busy working. They kept me company when she was away, ensuring I never felt alone. When my mother fell ill, they stepped in to help with all the chores, easing the burden I would have otherwise had to carry alone. Even when her condition worsened, my aunt would comfort me, gently saying, "It's okay, Mary, your mother is going to get better. Just believe and wait." No matter how tough things got, I managed to stay strong because they were always there for me. That's why I wanted them to have the seats of honor among the family at my wedding. To share this with them, I visited their home after some time apart. My aunt greeted me with tears in her eyes, saying, "Mary, congratulations on your marriage." "Thank you, Auntie," I replied, smiling. "I'd love for you both to sit in the family seats at my wedding. Would that be all right?" "Of course," she said, her voice warm with affection. Before bringing out a large box, "Mary, why don't you open it?" Prompted by my aunt, I carefully lifted the lid of the box in front of me. Inside, nestled among soft tissue paper, was a stunning white wedding dress. The gown, crafted from luxurious silk, struck a perfect balance between elegance and charm. The neckline was adorned with delicate, vibrant lace, and the silhouette was skillfully tailored to form a graceful A-line. Tiny, intricate flower embroideries decorated the hem, adding a touch of sweetness. The dress was clearly custom-made, its smaller size indicating it was designed just for me. I fell in love with it instantly. "Wait, what's this?" I asked, surprised. "It's from your mother, my sister," my aunt said gently. "What? Mom made this?" I gasped. My aunt nodded. The dress had been handmade by my mother. Despite battling her illness, she had painstakingly sewn it together, day after day, ensuring it was a perfect fit for my petite frame. My mother had entrusted the dress to my aunt with a final wish: "If Mary ever gets married, please give her this. It's filled with all the love I could pour into it in my last days. Mary, you have to wear this dress at your wedding. Your mother would be so happy," my aunt said, her eyes welling up with tears and her voice tender with emotion. I was deeply moved by her words and the love my mother had put into making this dress. "Thank you, Auntie, you've kept it safe all these years. I promise I'll wear it at my wedding. You have to be there to see me in it," I said, holding the dress close, my heart brimming with happiness. When I returned home, I carefully hung the dress on the wall of my bedroom, where I could see it every day. I was determined to honor my mother by making my wedding a beautiful success, wearing the dress she had lovingly created. That resolve only strengthened with each passing day. But then, disaster struck. One day, after coming home from work, I noticed the dress was no longer hanging on the wall. "What? Where is it?" I cried out in panic, knowing I had left it there. My heart raced as I reached for my phone, ready to call the police. Just then, my husband walked in. "Oh Mary, what's wrong?" he asked, noticing the tears streaming down my face and hurrying over to me. "My dress. It's gone. Someone must have stolen it." "It was right here," I said, my voice shaking with desperation. To my shock, Thomas didn't seem alarmed. Instead, he shrugged and said, "Oh, is that all?" "What do you mean, is that all, Thomas? Do you know something about this?" I asked, my heart sinking. "Of course I do. My sister's getting married soon and needed a dress, so I let her borrow yours," he said casually. "What? You did what?" My husband had lent my wedding dress to his sister without even asking me. He had mentioned the dress to her in passing, and when she asked if she could borrow it, he agreed without hesitation. She had come by while I was at work, using the spare key from our mailbox to let herself in and take it. I was furious. Are you kidding me? How could you do that without asking me? I yelled, but Thomas waved off my anger as if it were nothing. Our wedding isn't for a while, so what's the big deal? Besides, she was really happy she didn't have to buy one. She's broke, you know. Happy she didn't have to buy one? That's not the point. That dress was handmade by my mother specifically for me. I told you that, didn't I? It's tailored perfectly to my size. How could you just give it away without even asking me? I was livid, feeling completely disregarded. Calm down, Mary. It's not like the dress is ruined. You can still wear it. So what's the problem? Thomas said, as if he couldn't understand why I was so upset. What's the problem? Are you serious? Your sister is wearing my dress before I do. That's completely wrong. And you know it. I tried to make him see why I was hurt, but instead of apologizing or acknowledging his mistake, Thomas let out an exasperated sigh, dismissing my feelings entirely. Mary, you're being ridiculous. Stop acting like a spoiled child, will you? Ridiculous? Spoiled? You think I'm spoiled for being upset that my sister-in-law is wearing the dress my mother made specifically for me? I couldn't believe how dismissive Thomas was being, completely ignoring how much this meant to me. I've had enough of this. Tomorrow, I'm going to your parents' house to get my wedding dress back from your sister. What? Tomorrow? That's when my sister's fiancé and his parents are visiting. Don't cause a scene. Cause a scene? You've got some nerve. Let me be perfectly clear. I don't care what anyone says. There's no way I'm letting your sister wear that dress. The next day, I took time off work and headed straight to my in-laws' house. As I approached, I could hear the sounds of lively conversation spilling out from the open front door. Quietly, I stepped inside and listened. A man's voice I didn't recognize echoed through the house. Wow, did you make this dress yourself? It's incredible. Cynthia's voice responded modestly. Oh, it's really nothing. She was showing off my mother's handcrafted wedding dress to her fiancé and his parents as if it were her own. The sight of it stopped me in my tracks. But I was determined to have my dream wedding and bring my vision to life, so I ended up making the dress myself, Cynthia said, her words causing something inside me to shatter. Her dream dress. What a cruel joke. That dress was something my mother painstakingly crafted with love just for me. Before I even realized it, I was already moving toward them. I marched straight through the entrance and seized the wedding dress from Cynthia's hands. This is mine, I shouted, my voice echoing through the room. Everyone turned to me, their faces a mix of shock and confusion. Whoa, Mary, what's going on? My father-in-law stammered, clearly flustered. Ignoring him, I fixed my gaze on Cynthia and laid everything bare. This dress was made by my mother for me. Your daughter stole it from my room without my permission. What? The room fell silent as everyone stared at me, wide-eyed, except for Cynthia, who had gone pale. Cynthia, is that true? Her fiancé asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Cynthia, desperate, tried to deny it. No, it's not like that. I really did make this dress myself. Seeing that she was trying to spin more lies, I challenged her directly. Then why don't you try it on? My mother made this dress to fit my specific measurements. There's no way it will fit you. I continued, you're taller and more toned than I am. Cynthia, this dress was tailored to my petite frame, so there's no way it'll suit you. Just then, Thomas burst into the room, his face red with anger. Cynthia must have called him. Mary, what the hell are you doing? Are you trying to ruin my sister's wedding? Ruin her wedding? What are you talking about? If anything, she's the one who's trying to ruin mine. I shot back, incredulous at his reaction. But then he said something that truly stunned me. Shut up, we cancelled our wedding, so just give the dress to my sister. What? Cancelled? I repeated, trying to process what he'd just said. That's right, Thomas insisted, pushing forward. Cynthia said she was tight on money, so we gave her the $50,000 we saved for our wedding. Since we're not having one anymore, what do we need the dress for? You lent out my dress without asking, cancelled our wedding, and gave away the $50,000 we saved. Are you out of your mind? My voice trembled with disbelief and anger. To him, our marriage was something so insignificant. In that moment, I felt my love for him begin to fade. As I fell silent, Thomas mistook it for submission and, thinking he'd won, started to speak again. "Now, hand that dress back to my sister immediately. You're fine with canceling the wedding, right?" "Fine, let's just get a divorce then." "What?" My husband's shocked expression was almost comical. "Did you hear me? I said divorce. I'm done with someone who can so easily trample over my feelings without a second thought." Wait a minute, why are we talking about divorce? That's absurd," he stammered, clearly panicking. Any rational person would have seen this coming, he was just too blind to realize it. "Well, that settles it," I turned to leave, clutching the dress tightly, but Cynthia grabbed the fabric with all her might. In an instant, the dress tore, leaving it in tatters. As I stared at the ruined gown, Cynthia and Thomas burst into laughter, unable to contain themselves. "Serves you right," Cynthia sneered. "This is what happens when you mess with me." "Yeah, really," Thomas chimed in. "If you had just lent her the dress quietly, none of this would have happened. You brought this on yourself, Mary." Tears welled up in my eyes, not just from the destruction of the dress, but from the sheer cruelty of their actions. Canceling the wedding was one thing, but this dress was something I'd wanted to cherish for my entire life. And now, thanks to these heartless people. Suddenly, Cynthia's fiancé stood up, his voice low and deliberate. "I guess we're done too, then." Everyone froze. "Wait, what? You're breaking off the engagement over this?" Cynthia's voice was frantic. Disbelief etched across her face. "Why?" she pleaded, but her fiancé's glare cut her off. "Why? Isn't it obvious? I can't marry someone who would do something so vile without a second thought. There's no way." His parents, who had been quietly observing, nodded in agreement, their disapproval of Cynthia's actions evident. "Well, that's the end of this engagement," her fiancé said, making his way toward the door with his parents. Cynthia, in a panic, tried to stop them. "Wait, you can't be serious, calling off the engagement over something like this? Mom, Dad, you agree with me, right?" But her parents remained silent, their faces hard with disappointment. Her father finally spoke, his voice filled with rage. "Get out, you're a disgrace." Even Cynthia, usually so full of confidence, began to sob under the weight of her father's words. "This is too much, you're all being so cruel." "Stop crying," her father snapped. "I didn't raise a fool like you, you're not my daughter anymore." "But," Cynthia looked at him through her tears, hoping for some shred of mercy. Just then, Thomas, who had been silent, stepped forward, trying to shield his sister from the full brunt of their father's anger. "Dad, Mom, please calm down, there's no need to be so harsh on Cynthia." "You too, Thomas." "What?" My husband stared at his father in disbelief. "You're no better, how could you disregard Mary's feelings like that? Get out of this house with your sister, you foolish son." My husband stood there, stunned, never expecting to be disowned as well. His mouth hung open in shock. My mother-in-law approached me, bowing her head in apology. "I'm so sorry, Mary, we were told that the dress was handmade by our daughter, and we just believed it." "No, it's okay," I replied softly, "but I can't continue living with Thomas anymore." "That's understandable. It's our daughter's fault. You should live your life without worrying about any of this." Her words struck a chord in me. My in-laws had always been kind to me, and I felt a pang of guilt that things had escalated to this point, but I knew deep down that I couldn't stay with Thomas any longer. "Mary, I'm really sorry, let's have a proper wedding, just don't file for divorce yet." My husband's tone shifted instantly, desperation creeping in now that he'd been disowned. But there was no way I'd return to a man who had shown such weakness and disrespect. "I'll live my own life, I can be happy without you." Hearing this, my husband collapsed to his knees. I thanked my in-laws for their kindness and left their home. I packed my belongings and went to my aunt's house, where she welcomed me warmly. Though surprised by the sudden turn of events, she understood my decision and supported me fully. As for the torn dress, my aunt skillfully mended it, restoring my mother's creation to its original beauty. After that, I filed for divorce and requested alimony. Since my ex-husband had secretly given our wedding funds to his sister, I was able to secure a bit more in the settlement. My ex-husband and sister-in-law, both disowned by their parents, were now living together in the house we once shared. Cynthia, who had planned on becoming a housewife, had already quit her job and was now unemployed, leaving my ex-husband to shoulder all the financial burdens. If I ever have another chance to marry, I'll make sure to choose my partner carefully, and when that day comes, I'll walk down the aisle in my mother's handmade wedding dress, ready for a truly wonderful wedding.